What's going on, Dolphins? It is your boy Dillon. I am back with you for another Dolphins with Dillon. My part's going to be real short today. I'm going to make this quick so that way you guys can get straight to the interviews. Got coordinators for you. Got Coach Gase. Got some players. So that's going to be real good. That's going to be fun. I hope you enjoy that. But getting to the news, the important stuff that I have for you. So as I had reported, Maurice Smith had gotten promoted to the 53-man roster. Safety Maurice Smith, right? And then we have filled the practice squad spot with former Bills tight end Nick O'Leary. So he is now on the practice squad. That rounds us back out at 10. And also, so, we had promoted Maurice Smith in part because, Rashad Jones got a little banged up. I guess he's got a sore shoulder. They didn't really say exactly what the injury was. I haven't heard anything specific, but they just said it was a minor thing. Gase has said that Rashad Jones is day-to-day, but he was at practice today. He missed practice yesterday. He was there today. It looks like, though, he should make the game. It doesn't look, though, as if he's going to be out, so that's good news for us. But hopefully, like I said in the previous, I think my previous video, if he did have to sit, I'd rather have him sit this game and be back for the Patriots game and be able to have him for long term if he did need to. But he seems to be all right. He seems to be out there moving around just fine, according to all reports. So that's good news. Rashad Jones should be there. We should be at full power there in the secondary. Bobby McCain apparently is a little nicked up too, but he seems to be all right as well. That seems to be real minor, just probably some soreness as well, is what I'm guessing. Something real minor, minor strain or something. But both those guys seem to be fine and should be able to play. Also, Devontae Parker. Looks like he's going to be good to go. We thought maybe last week, but it's looking pretty good for him for this week. So hopefully he is. I do want him back in because, him and Gesicki are the two guys that we have that are really the big body receivers, right? So, we want to be able to utilize those two guys. In certain situations. We need guys that are going to be able to, high point the ball and, get the 50-50 balls and stuff. I mean, we have other guys that'll do it too. Kenny Stills goes up for balls. Jakeem Grant goes up for balls and stuff like that. But having those big body guys certainly definitely helps. So anyway, having him back will be good. So it looks like going into this Oakland Raiders game, we should be pretty healthy. Overall, which is encouraging, which is good. That means we should basically have all hands on deck, which is really important. It's going to be a tough game. I think, I've been watching film and stuff. I think that, especially at home, they're traveling from West Coast. Obviously I'm going to do my actual preview video on Saturday, but just to kind of preface that a little bit, they don't. Honestly, nothing about the Raiders really scares me. They have good players. They got Marshawn Lynch. They got Derek Carr's pretty solid. He's at least a solid quarterback, if nothing else. He's decent. And then they got Amari Cooper. They got, Seth Roberts has been doing some good things for him. They got some good guys. But nothing about them really scares me, and especially with them traveling, they've been having it rough the past few weeks. I know they really want to win, I'm sure, but they're 0-2. I think that we should be able to have our way with them when they come down into our stadium. And but anyway, I'll get to that later. So anyway, that's really all I got for you guys. I do want to keep this really short, so I'm going to go ahead and end it there. I'm going to send you off to the interviews. I hope you liked those. I hope you liked the video. If you did, please hit the subscribe button, share it with your family and friends, anybody, everywhere. Put it out there. Hit the like button. Leave me your questions, comments, and concerns. And with that, I'll see you guys soon. Fins up.
So feeling good the past couple of days, and we're just gonna see what happens on Sunday.
And did Coach ever give you much of an explanation as to why you didn't play?
Yeah, he just told me it wouldn't hurt to just have another, couple days off just make sure the hands there's enough rest for it, and I was okay with that.
Does the hand feel that much better after just a few more days?
Yeah, it does
You
actually.
can notice it?
Yeah, big difference.
What's your level of, I guess, antsiness to get out there and help the team win?
No, it's very high. Missing 2 games? Yeah, missing the first 2 games, and just ready to get back out there whenever that chance is.
Do you have everything back from the skill standpoint with the finger healed? Can you pretty much do everything at this point?
Yeah, I can catch and sing, blocking. Yeah. Everything's still there.
Coach Gase said that he likes where you are right now from a mental standpoint in terms of your approach to practice. Can you describe kind of the approach you've tried to take, especially in the last few weeks?
Yeah, I try to just come out there, just have energy, just get going out there and moving around. It's a lot better than being out and missing. So when I come back, just for energy, I just ready to be out there and get going.
Any lesson you may have learned or anything along the way you might have learned about yourself in the last couple of weeks?
No, I'm the same me. That's it.
How good can this receiving group be? I mean, injecting your ability with a group that's already good, all five of you, obviously this Tanner as well. What's your assessment of how good that group can be?
I feel like we can be very good. Everyone has their different traits that they bring to the table, and we all coach is going to find some way to utilize that and just find a way to pick defenses apart.
It was cool. I think whoever do something like special or big, what I did, passing someone or whoever break a record. I think they always do that to everybody. But it was cool.
Do you have any other pieces of equipment that you've worn that's up there? Or is that the first one?
I think I got some San Fran stuff in there. So that's why I think whoever do something good, like who pass somebody or break a record on a Sunday, a piece go to the hall. So, but it was big.
Have you toured the Hall of Fame?
Huh?
Have you toured the Hall of Fame?
When we played, I think I played in the Hall of Fame game, but I didn't tour it. No.
To follow up on that, is it sort of weird your jersey's in there before you're in there, physically in there?
Well, hopefully I'll keep going, and when that time comes, if I get in there, I'll be happy about that. But I really don't think about it though.
Frank, when you see someone like Marshawn who's been doing it along like you, is there just like running back to running back, mutual respect?
That's my man.
How does that go?
Marshawn, my man. I know him. He's a friend of mine. So I love the way he played the game of football. I'm happy that he came back because I knew that he still can play the game, and I'm happy that dude who came in like back when I came in still going. So that's a plus for us.
And you always get a lot of personality on the field with him. Do you like watching him sometime when he kind of gets into his antics a little bit?
I like watching him. Well, hopefully, we don't get too much to watch him this week. I just, we go out there and do what we got to do to try to get a win.
You guys have a lot in common personality-wise. You guys seem pretty different from Marshawn.
I'm more, we cool, but I'm more laid back. I just, just come to work and work. So we different.
Do you look at it almost like living vicariously? Sometimes like it might be fun to kind of act like Marshawn for a day, or
Marshawn is Marshawn. I respect the way he played the game, though. He played the game the right way, and we both do. So I'm proud. I'm proud of what he's doing, and I know he's probably proud of do the same.
Frank, you played with a lot of receivers in your time. Have you seen someone like Albert of that size who can break tackles like that?
He like a little running back, he's tough. I like the way he played the game too. He practiced hard. When I was watching him in Kansas City, I said the same thing. The way he, break tackles, and I'm happy he on my team.
You said you were happy during training camp to accept the role, whatever it may be, that Adam Gase had for you. Now, have you embraced this role where they can count on you when they put you in?
Coach, I feel that my coaches and my teammates know like the way I work, and just seeing me in practice, knowing when I'm in the game that, it's just like a starter out there. So I'm gonna just keep trying to do, keep making plays when my number get called.
In college, kicking and thinking that will translate.
Yes. No, I mean, yeah, I mean, absolutely. The answer is that absolutely yes. I've mentioned this before when we talked about Jason and us bringing Jason in and drafting Jason, and certainly with Greg as well. Neither of those guys had necessarily great field goal percentages in college, but there's so much more to that position. The short answer is this. Number one, it's a very hard transition at the position from college to the NFL, maybe more than people would give it credit for. Maybe one of the hardest transitions, maybe aside from quarterback, because of many reasons. The hashes are different. The football is different. The yardage that you hold the spot, the snap spot is a lot of times different, another yard. There's many, many factors that factor in. Your operation changes. You have a different holder, a different snapper. There's a lot of variables that go into it. And so, yes, a lot of times there might be a guy, quote unquote, on paper that might seem like the best choice. But I think when you dive in deeper and you're looking for guys that transition better from college to NFL, I think that's what we've tried to do here. Is kind of look for the best fits there, and so I think that's why sometimes you see maybe the named guys, if you will, sometimes maybe don't pan out because of that transition. And listen, those guys you mentioned are very talented. It's not just talent alone at that position that gets it done. There's a lot of other factors that go into it: mindset, the accuracy, all those things that I mentioned earlier. And so, it is a difficult task for those guys a lot of times to transition from the college to the NFL game.
When you have a situation like Matt Hack where he gives you such great field position, how unique is that to get it from a punter for an entire game?
Yeah, it really was. He was lights out. I mean, he just had a fantastic game. I think, going in, obviously we felt like that was going to be and it's every game, don't get me wrong, but we made it actually a big deal last week about the field position and, certainly the quarterback we were playing against last week and trying to make him go some long fields and things like that. And Matt was a weapon. And, sometimes you get 2 or 3 shots inside the 20 to have 5 in one game, and really it was 6. Statistically, it's not 6, but he had 6 punts. And all 6 of the drives that the Jets started off, the next possession, all started off inside the 20. The 6th one was a penalty. And so we had got blocked in the back right in front of the returner, and they actually started the drive, I think, if I'm not mistaken, inside the 15-yard line on that one as well. So he was really 6 for 6. Statistically, he gets credit for 5. But just a really, really good job. There's a lot of game plan that goes involved with the punt game. The direction, the hang time, the location, the distance, all those things. And he was just really just had a really tremendous game. The incredible thing about Matt Haack is I've said this before, and I'll continue to say it. I actually think that he still has room for improvement. As good as he's been, and as good as he was last Sunday, he's a guy that's really, in my opinion, still just scratching the surface. He's a very talented guy. The finer points of his game, I think he really improved on in the off season, and kind of we're seeing that. Last Sunday is kind of evidence of that.
What's the next step for him? Just consistency.
Yeah, last year, we've talked about this a little bit. Last year I thought he started the season really well, and it's a long haul for rookie punters. Those guys really punt for about 18 months in a row because of their training and they're getting ready for the combine, and they really never have a break. And so I thought he hit a wall a little bit last year. I don't want to call it dead leg, but he lost a little bit of juice, a little bit, if you will. And so this year, kind of the training regiment's a little bit different. His annual kind of process was a little bit different. And certainly the consistency, yeah. And I think that's so far what we've seen so far from training camp till now. He's been, much improved in that area. So.
I wanted to ask you about what I call the dreaded trio.
Yes. 34, 35, 38.
Yes.
All right.
Very important guys in terms of the roles that they play. How much do you rely on them to sort of be the guys that make things happen on that unit?
Yeah, great question. Well, obviously, Walt's certainly been a leader for us now these last couple of years, and he kind of leads the charge of that group. But Sonoris is a guy that really came on a lot last year, and was a guy that really played a very, very solid football, very consistent football, was fast, physical, and now add Brandon Bolden to that mix. a guy that's obviously had a lot of background. We talked about that last week, a consistent player, a guy with a really good background in that area. And so those three guys, all in their own right give us maybe some different jobs, but they all give us productivity. And all three of those guys are a very, very integral part of what we do.
How do you figure out what is the best role for each of them on each unit?
Yeah, it's a week-to-week thing. A lot of times we game plan it. Special teams overall is a little bit more of a matchup game than offense and defense. You're matching up, one-on-one situations. You're trying to get those guys. The good thing about all three of those guys, they give you a lot of flexibility. They can give you a lot of position flex. So you can move those guys around, which we do in all the phases. And so especially the kick game, kick return game, then the pump block return game. Those guys really give you. They can be matchup nightmares for the opponent at times. You can get in position, and by the same token, they can really be they can work in your favor in the blocking schemes and things. They can match up on different type of bodies, and so having that position flex in that, especially in that aspect in special teams, is a huge deal. Not being a one-trick pony, if you will.
You go into a game and you kind of use Walt like a chess piece.
Yeah, really every player in that aspect, from that aspect rather, is like a chess piece in terms of making matchups and trying to figure out, number one, how we're going to defend our opponent. Number two, how we're going to attack our opponent, and try to get those guys in positions where they can make the most amount of plays. And so, a lot of times they're not locked into one spot. If you use the kickoff game, for example, a lot of times you'll see those guys line up in multiple positions based on maybe where our opponent's lining up, what their scheme is, and things like that. So it's definitely a little bit of a chess match for sure.
How did Armstrong do, and how is McAvoy doing?
We'll start with Armstrong. That's a unique situation we got going on right there at corner. We're trying to, week to week, it's kind of a competitive deal we got going on to see who's going to be active. I thought, last week he got a chance. I think I mentioned in here, I thought he was one of the most improved players throughout training camp from when we started back in the spring. He got his first shot the other day. I think he played 14 or 15 snaps and really graded out pretty well. I thought he did, for a guy that jumping in there for the first time in his first real NFL game, not counting the preseason games. I thought this guy graded out pretty well. He played fast. It didn't seem like it was too big for him, and so that was a really positive step. McAvoy is another guy that can play a lot of spots, and has played a lot of spots for Seattle the last couple years. You saw he had a tackle last week on the one punt that got returned. He was the guy down there making a tackle, and so he's a guy that came right in and kind of quarterbacked our punt team those first couple of games, and as the PP, that's the guy that kind of making all the calls, and so he's a guy we've also moved around, and so again, another guy that can wear a lot of hats, and it's kind of why we brought him here.
Darren, how did Kalen Ballage grade out on special teams in preseason?
Well, obviously, Barry, he missed a couple games in the middle, so it was game 1 and game 4. In game 4, he actually played very well on special teams, and we had him play multiple positions in that game on purpose, because we hadn't seen him in 2 games and kind of wanted to see what he could do in different situations. He does have a little bit of a special teams background. He's one of those players that is a rare kind of bird, if you will, because he's a running back that played special teams in college. There's not a lot of those, especially coming out of the Power 5 conferences. You don't see a lot of running backs playing on core teams, especially in the coverage. And so he did have a little bit of a background there. His college special teams coach is a former NFL coach, guy that coached special teams coordinator in the NFL for the Packers. And so he's a guy that had a really good background coming in. And so very, very happy with him. He's in a position right now. Obviously, it's a very competitive position. We mentioned some of those guys, Bolden, Perry, that are giving us special teams reps. And so, certainly he's done nothing wrong. It's just certainly a situation where he's just got to stay on top of his stuff, and he's going to get eventually, just like Cornell, he's going to get an opportunity here, whether it's this week or moving forward. And I expect good things out of him because he's really got a good foundation.
On the Armstrong-Tankersley dynamic, the week of competition, does that also include how they perform in practice on special teams, or is it who's the better quarterback, and then that person will play special teams on Sunday?
It's definitely a combo. Definitely a combo. Obviously, you look at our cornerback position, X and Bobby and Torrey and Tank and Cornell. Certainly the guys that are 3, 4, and 5, their special teams role is definitely a huge part of that. And it's also a constant conversation with the defensive staff on, what they're doing game plan-wise. And so it's definitely a combination. We want to make sure that, if they need to go in on defense or they're playing on defense, we're giving them the best shot. And certainly on special teams, we're giving ourselves the best opportunity, too. The good news is it's a competitive deal. It's not like you got one guy who's, so deficient in one area and not the other. And it's not that kind of thing right now. It's a close battle. It's a week-to-week thing. And I think it's healthy, to be honest with you. And the competition makes everything better. So I kind of like where we are with that position.
Thick. He's really strong in the lower body. You know, obviously he creates, you know, he's explosive lower body athlete. He has some suddenness, but he's strong in the lower body.
I saw one website, I don't know if it's true, they said that Laremy Tunsil's only allowed, you're a better source than this website, one pressure all season. I don't know if that sounds about right, but what are you seeing in terms of in what areas he's just really good right now?
You know, Barry asked that question last week. That was a guy I said since I've been here I saw it grow the most. And I think that's a strength of Laramie's is definitely in the pass pro, and he's doing a good job. I think playing with Josh Sitton for that limited time was a big asset to him as well, because that was Sitton's, you know, biggest strength was in pass protection. I think Laramie's done a really good job taking it really serious. And I've said it in the spring, the other advantage Laramie had was going against 94 every day, and I think that he grew because of that.
So is it accurate one pass protection?
I don't know that. I'm sorry. You guys will find out. I'm not good with stats, but it's probably there hadn't been very many.
And Jawan's played the first couple weeks. How would you assess that?
I've been pleased with it. He's played hard, played aggressive. That the first game played really well. Last week was solid, had a good game, but you know, he's done everything we've asked, played hard, and you know, has been an asset for us.
Can the run game, the efficiency that you guys have had in the run game, can that be sustained?
Each week, you know, it's going to change, and each individual matchup is different. We knew last week was going to be tough. That's a really good defense. It's very well coordinated by Casey Rogers and Todd Bowles, and they do a tremendous job. And our guys execute the plan well. There was some stuff that helped them, the scheme-wise and the RPOs, and you know, obviously using 15 in some different ways. So we'll find different ways to run it. You'd love to say, sure, it's going to be great every week, but there's going to come a time in the NFL when you're going to have to throw it 45 times to win a game. And obviously we'd love to have balance every week and be able to play the game on our terms and can, you know, be able to do that. But at some point, like, somebody's going to load up the box and try to take it away.
I saw Coach Gase was out there with the, what are they called, foam pads?
I don't know.
What are they called?
Yeah, big foam arms.
Yeah, the big orange things with the receivers.
Yeah. And Jason said that at one point he hit Gesicki in the face.
It's just good defense.
You guys are really, but you guys don't have much right now, do you? This is where we're going?
No, I want to ask about Gesicki and what he's shown in terms of, you know, get separation and what do you call that guy? What do you call that? Escaping jams and things like that.
The separation's the best term for it. Absolutely. He's getting better with it. You know, it's something that in the the interception we threw in the red area against Tennessee, his release wasn't great. You know, he slipped off line. We left the ball inside a little bit, and obviously it's a point of emphasis for the head coach to come over and do that. Like right there, when the head coach lines up in front of you with those big orange pads, like, you know, all of a sudden it's real. And but it's something we're going to continue to work on him with. He's getting a better feel for it, but it is an area he has to improve on because, you know, he has drawn. There was a couple times last week we drew some double coverage, and they're bumping him off the line of scrimmage, and people are aware of where he's at. And everybody knows we drafted him to be a playmaker for us, and he's actually drawn some attention that's freed some other guys up.
Did you have time this week to attend the Nick O'Leary workout, or is that more of a Chris and Mike thing?
I was there. I did go out. Chris and Mike do a great job at scheduling the thing, so it was at 7 a.m. So it was, we don't start meetings till 7:30, so I was able to go over there and watch it. He's an impressive guy. You know, I'm glad he's here. We needed some depth there, and you know, excited to get him on the practice field and see what he does. Paid attention to him a little bit today. Made a play on a corner route for us, and you know, obviously know the name because of Florida State and had a good career and being in Buffalo. So really excited to have him here and work with him.
The skill set there that could intrigue you guys mostly as a receiver, as a receiving tight end, or what would you say?
Yeah, I mean, it's early for us to say like that. He obviously had some success that way, but he's he's a guy that he's thicker than you think he is. Like when he got here and you got to see him, like he's got some size. You know, not the longest guy in the world, but he's got some thickness that, you know, I'm anxious to see what he does in the run game.
You know, when you have a lot of people that can make plays at a certain position, I'm talking about wide receiver, and you're adding a guy that hasn't played the first 2 games in Devontae, does that cause a good problem for you as far as, well, now we've got to spread it out a little thinner, and how do you resolve that problem? is it just taking care of itself, or how does that get resolved?
Yes, sir. I think some of it takes care of itself, and we're obviously excited to have Devontae and get him back on the field, get him going, and he's a guy that he's been here before, so the Coach Gase and the rest of the staff have a good feel for him. He was able to go through OTAs before he got banged up, but anytime you get a chance to get a talented player on the field, we're excited about it, and there'll be parts of the game where he has. There's things designed to go to him. Now, maybe coverage dictates the ball goes somewhere else, but he'll have plays just like the rest of them do, and the coverage will dictate where the ball goes, and sometimes those scheme plays sometimes the ball doesn't go where it's supposed to go, and Ryan does a really good job of going to number 2, number 3 in the progression.
What does he bring to the table in terms of that's a very diverse array of wide receivers. Yes. What makes him different?
The length. It's the different, we're not the tallest group of receivers. Wouldn't say we're small either, because most of them are put together pretty well with Albert and Jakeem. They're both thick guys, they're strong, but that's the thing that he has. He can run, he's big, but he has length.
How did the interior of the offensive line, the 3 guys collectively, work together and perform and execute in the last game?
They were solid. They really were. Ted came in and did a nice job filling in for where the role that Josh was going to fill, but I thought Jesse played really well. He played his best game. Kilgore was solid, and Ted stepped in and did a nice job.
Is Derby the main guy on that play, the first read on that touchdown?
No.
Does it seem like
yes. Is he the first read? Yes, he is. Did it happen in the timing of the play? Absolutely not. You talked about the interior of the offensive line. They did a great job because it really turned into a scramble drill. Derby's 1, the back is 2, and then Ryan had so much time in the pocket. He was able to kind of create a scramble drill right there, and AJ found the soft spot in the zone and got there, and the protection was so good. Ryan saw it and threw a missile to him. So,
Wanted to ask you about those 4 sacks. Now, a lot of people are saying Ryan held onto the ball too long. Some people, myself included, are saying nothing was open there. Maybe he could have thrown the ball away. How do you view those 4 sacks?
Yeah, well, number 1 is a quarterback spot. We're always going to take credit. We're always going to take responsibility for those. There's absolutely Ryan needs to get the ball out regardless. We don't want to take sacks on first, second down plays. We don't want to take sacks on nakeds. That's a cardinal sin for us. We need to do a better job with that stuff. The offensive line protected pretty good for the most part, and there's always be some things there's an element of everything involved in it. Sometimes it's coverage, sometimes it's us making a poor decision at quarterback, sometimes it's getting beat on a game inside. I'd have to go back and look at all 4 of them. I know that there were a couple like the nakeds. That doesn't need to happen. That should never happen. It's our responsibility to get rid of the ball, and Ryan is definitely a talented enough player and good enough player to do that.
Thank you.
Play. Again, I think it's sort of been probably a recurring theme for me up here with Raekwon. It's just you forget, just because of his maturity, forget that he hasn't played a lot of football for us, and I thought he got a lot better last week. Coming downhill in the run game and striking a little bit, and playing a little bit stouter for us and firmer in there for us. So I was happy to see him do that and kind of make that step. He had a couple really good shots of him taking on linemen and doing some of the things that we're really looking for him to do. So happy with sort of his progression. And again, I just always kind of cautious myself as well that his maturity and his presence kind of makes you think he's well ahead of where he is sometimes. So there's still some things he's got to work on, but he's been doing good. And Bake's probably the same way, obviously different style of play and personalities, but the things that we're asking Bake to do and the roles that we're trying to put Jerome in, he's doing a good job for us. So, honestly, I probably felt I should have probably got Baker in a little bit more last week in different situations. Kind of game kind of had a little different rhythm to it, but I probably could have got him on the field a little bit more. So, try to utilize his skill set a little bit better. So.
Just because of a unique package?
Yeah, we're trying to roll those guys again. Try to give guys different roles, and obviously Chase as a bigger linebacker, and he's got a giant head on him, and can use that to do some things. So we just try to use him in a little bit and take some stuff off him, and trying to put the all the guys in a position to succeed and to utilize each of their skill sets. So, Chase is a guy that's, proven to us that he's, capable of playing on Sundays, and so we're going to try to find a role that he can help us win ball games.
Like, explain to me your thought process. Obviously, Rashad Jones's shoulder injuries is something you have to be careful with because of the nature of his position. But if you're forced to play without him, does Minka go back, or are you comfortable with him where he is at nickel, or does Maurice Smith get into the equation there?
Oh, man. Think I'm going to answer all that? Yeah. I mean, all of that. Again, part of the reason we train the guys the way we train them, again, you're never going to go through season 100% healthy. I mean, obviously, even just if it's little bumps and bruises and nicks and a play here or there series. So, it's one of the reasons we've cross-trained a lot of those guys at different spots. And, I think the ability, for Minka to play a couple different spots and for Bobby to do the same and some of those guys. And, obviously bringing Mo up from a guy that's been in the system and been, around the program. It's not like he's a new player for us. So, he has a familiarity and all those guys. So, it's the same. It's just probably a similar answer to the linebackers. You know what I mean? Like, we'll take a look at how we have to play certain guys, whether it's the safeties or the nickels, and put those guys out. But all those options are available to us, which helps. I wouldn't say that. Again, we've continued to try to get Minka some work at different spots. So it's not like, man, he's only been playing down the nickel, and now I don't want to move him back there. We keep training those guys and moving guys around. So he's been getting work at a lot of different positions, and again, we feel good. We'll feel good about putting them all in a spot that we think is the best group to go win on Sunday.
You mentioned with Bobby in your answer to Omar here. Has his work outside in the first two games been pretty much what you had anticipated?
I'm sorry, can you say it again?
Bobby McCain?
Yeah, has his what?
Has his work outside in the first two games been pretty much what you had anticipated?
Yeah, certainly. Again, Bobby's a guy you know what you're going to get. He's gonna compete and bite your face off and play hard and do it right, do the way you're asking, and that's what he's done. So we can win with that for sure. He's done a good job. He has saved us. I mean, I made a hell of a play on that at the end of the half there. I mean, that's an unbelievable play by him. So yeah, he's been good.
What one physical trait does he have that maybe stands out above others?
He's quick. He's a quick player. So he's I know people think he's sort of a smaller guy, but he's a physical player at the corner position for a quote shorter guy. So with his quickness and he's kind of like he can strike people and stuff, so he can get hands on and he can mirror routes and stuff like that. Again, he's used to. He's been used to playing in the slot where there's a lot of stuff going on in there. He's had to fit in the run game, so he's not afraid to do that. He's got a physical presence to his game, and then also he's had to match up a lot of quick players in that world. So, moving out there, that's just not. It hasn't been a change for him. He's kind of utilized that skill set, his quickness, his toughness, his tenacity, and kind of just transferred it a couple yards outside.
If you weren't a defensive coach, how much would you enjoy watching Marshawn Lynch play?
That's hard to get out of your blood there. No, I mean, I respect the way he plays, obviously, and has played for a while. And, as a defensive coach, I think just by nature, we're an offensive head coach. Like you appreciate the physical nature of the game. Like we try to pride ourselves on being a physical team and a physical defense, and that's, kind of something on our side of the ball. That's kind of how you have to play. And so, obviously, when you have an offensive player that plays a physical brand, that you there's a level of admiration and respect for a guy, and it's done it for a long time and runs hard. And, again, to me, he's one of those guys that you know what you're getting, he knows what you're getting type of thing, and he's not afraid to go mix it up. So, yeah, I mean, I have a level of respect and admiration for the way he plays and how hard he runs, and he's a tough, hard-nosed dude and fights for yards and all that stuff. So, yeah, I mean, I have a level of respect for the way he plays the game for sure.
What areas has Xavier made the most improvement since you got your hands on?
Like 3 years ago, hands on. Can't go back that far. I think with X it always was. I think his physical skill set really has never been in question. He's tall, long, he can run, all that sort of stuff. So, I feel like probably I've answered this like in terms of last year. Like his growth comes from sort of the knowledge of like a game and starting to understand how teams are attacking him, or just seeing the nuances of splits and leverages and sort of like route concepts and matching things, you know what I mean? So the more that he plays for us and the more he sees, I mean, again, if you go back that far, I think some of the things that he missed where he lost some time as a rookie with the injuries and some of those things where he just didn't get that bank of knowledge, so the more he plays, I think he just keeps growing in the confidence of seeing, understanding like what an offense is doing to attack him and recognizing splits and stems and route concepts and studying, those sort of things. So I think his sort of just like football knowledge or just like kind of awareness just keeps expanding the more he's on the field for us, which, is sort of like a cyclical thing. Then his confidence grows, like you see it with X when like we practice something like, hey, if they line up like this is what you're going to get. And it happens and he jumps it. And then he gets confident about that, and then it just sort of builds. Now he's like, okay, give me something else that I can kind of sink my teeth into. And so like the sort of him having success recognizing certain patterns and routes and those sort of things lends to confidence, which then kind of refolds back into he wants more and more. And the more kind of he experiences that and has success with that, I think he just keeps growing as a football player.
So Matt, everyone saw the pass to Bilal Powell, the touchdown.
Yeah.
What did Raekwon do the rest of the game that, on pass defense, and what does he have to do to keep that from happening again?
Yeah, I mean, and listen, that's not he had poor technique on that. He opened his hips up on it, and he was worried about he kind of overcommitted to the flat route and Powell angled back underneath him. We should have a little bit of help there. We shouldn't isolate him like that. So I mean, it's not just him. We need to get that down on the ground and live to fight another play. I put him in a hard spot, so. But he can help himself with better technique. Again, he kind of flipped his hips and tried to run. He was kind of, I got to get out there right now. And then when the guy angled back, he couldn't get his hips back to kind of plant and come underneath it. So, I put him in a tough spot. He didn't have great technique, and then we didn't get help from anywhere else that we probably should have from a couple spots. So it was kind of a multitude of things. It wasn't just on him. But I think, again, everyone sort of highlights that. I mean, I don't know if you noticed him the rest of the game, the passing game, which is a good thing. Which is a good thing. I mean, I think that's probably the answer more than I'm not trying to throw that back at you. Like, he didn't get targeted a lot. I mean, he was in the right spot. Again, he has a really good feel. He's maybe the opposite in terms of like sort of that last answer with X. He has a good feel for like route concepts and what's happening in the passing game. You know what I mean? So when we play him sort of in zone coverages and those sort of things, he kind of has an understanding, okay, that guy's going here. This is probably what's going to show up in this window. So he does a good job of like closing windows and zone coverages and kind of recognizing route concepts and those sort of things to put himself in a good spot. So if we're playing those type of coverages, he usually doesn't get targeted a lot because he's in the right spot and he's closing down whatever windows he's supposed to be closing down. So again, I put him in a somewhat of a man matchup there, and it's a tough matchup for him. And again, he can help himself with better technique, and we got a couple other guys that need to kind of help him finish that playoffs better too. So. But I thought for the most part he did a pretty good job in some of the stuff we were asking him to do. I mean, it's that offense is a quick passing game offense. And the ball's out and they're running all those screens and shield type plays and those sort of things. So he has to be a guy that's running and hitting and making a lot of tackles because the ball's going to be in the hands of those receivers quick. And I thought he did a good job with some of that.
Is Baker close to competing for playing time in the nickel?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, we work him. He got a couple reps last week, and again, maybe, that's a place where maybe I can get him a little bit more work in that world. Again, like a matchup like that, putting a little bit more speed in the field. But he's got to earn it. He's still got a ways to go in some areas. So, yeah, I mean, he's done a good job in that. And again, we keep kind of spoon feeding him a little bit more and more, and sort of trickle down economics and just sort of getting him a little bit more and more every day, and hopefully it fills him up a little bit and he's ready to go. So yeah, he's fine. It's not that we don't have confidence in him. Again, it's just kind of find the right time and the right spot to get all those guys in the field, whichever matchups we like.
And based on the stage of where Jerome is in his career, is Kiko still in your mind your person best equipped in coverage at linebacker?
I mean, I think it's again. This game has become such a matchup game. I think that's week to week. I mean, there's probably some, Kiko's probably got about 15 pounds on Baker. So, I mean, there's times when we feel that that's probably a better matchup having he's taller, he's longer, a little bit bigger body, so that may be a week where we feel that's a better matchup for us. Baker is a quicker, You know, he's obviously lower to the ground. He can run. He's probably, don't tell Kiko I said this. He's probably faster, straight out, right, and stuff like that. So I mean, those are different matchups. I mean, sometimes we'll say, hey, we like Kiko in this role. Sometimes it may be Bake. So, you know, obviously I thought Kiko played an outstanding game last week. So I have no qualms about the way he's been playing football for us.
We've beaten you to death with tight end questions and concerns the last couple of years.
I know you guys are really concerned.
You guys made some major moves. Minka, Jerome Baker is supposed to help with the tight end.
Yeah.
How confident are you that it'll make a difference against a player like Jared?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Jared's had a successful season so far. He's had a lot of targets. Obviously, he had some success against us last year. So, I mean, yeah, that's part of the reason we try to bring some of the players in that we brought in, and again, similar in terms of like having matchups, players that we like in different body types and different roles for different types of players. So, you know, Cook's a guy that obviously we have to be aware of and what they're trying to do with him, and they're trying to get him the ball in a lot of scenarios. So, yeah, I mean, that's the game plan, is to try to have some different body types to throw at him and try to take some of his game away.
How different is it for a defensive play caller when you know an offense like the Patriots or like Oakland, their primary is the tight end? He's not the guy getting the check down. He's getting a good amount of targets.
Yeah, I don't know that, you know, I don't know that necessarily it matters in terms of what position that player plays. I mean, every week there's going to be the one or two guys that you're saying, hey, these are their guys. I mean, it's not like we're going to put 6 guys on Cook and leave Amari Cooper, you know, hanging out by himself either, you know. So there's always, you know, built in with certain calls that you just like better, that sort of feature more positive coverage on some of those guys, you know what I mean? So the fact that he's a tight end, I mean, I don't know that, like, that changes a whole lot of stuff in terms of just more like, hey, these are the calls we're going to lean on, or the ways we're going to try to, you know, isolate those guys. I mean, with a guy like Cook, I mean, they flex him out a lot, so he ends up being in wide receiver spots anyways, you know what I mean? So it's not like he's always doing it from the line of scrimmage. I mean, that's a different kind of release point than some other spots. So, yeah, I think that's just every week. Again, you know, just you want to talk general stuff. I mean, we look at what they're trying to do on offense, and we try to take it away. So obviously every week there's going to be a couple guys that they're trying to feature and get the ball to, and it's our job to try to negate that. And this week, you know, he happens to probably be one of those players.
What do you think from Charles Harris in the first 2 games?
Yeah, honestly, I think he's a little bit like Raekwon, just in terms of getting better and better every day. I mean, he had the sack negated last week. You know, it's kind of I don't say I felt bad for him, whatever, but. You know, it would have been good to, like, for, you know, he had a sack and kind of was getting the momentum going, which just for, you know, I think he gets frustrated sometimes. You know, he hasn't had as many of the positive results, just end results sort of statistically. You know, he's had a lot of pressures for us and affected plays, but he just hasn't had that, like, putting up sack numbers, which I think he gets frustrated sometimes by. So it was cool to see him get the sack. I mean, it stinks that it was taken away by the NZI, But, you know, that's, again, all we really want him to do is get off the ball and cause havoc. I mean, he's an explosive player. You know, we just keep telling him, put your hand down and get off, and good things will happen. And I thought he was better last week, this past week, than the first week in terms of doing that stuff. So, you know, again, hope all these guys are on a trend that we just keep getting better every week and getting better every week. And those guys that some of the, you know, he's still a young player for us. I mean, he played more, obviously, than Raekwon did last year, but just hope that all those young players keep on that trend. If we keep saying, hey, every week, man, okay, he got better. And, you know, we don't want him to press. Those results will come. If he keeps playing the techniques and the style we want him to play, you know, those will come. You know, I mean, and it's a luxury to have a first-round draft pick that, you know, we're throwing 3-4 other guys in with. You know what I mean? Like, it's nice that he plays 20 to 30 snaps or whatever it is, and he can throw his fastballs and give us different looks. So I think if he just keeps playing the techniques and playing the style we're asking him to play, the results, the statistical results will come, because he has done some positive things for us, you know. So I think we just try to teach him not to get frustrated and just stay the course, and that stuff will work out.
For us, you know, we'll go through the rest of the week. This is a big one day at a time for him. You know, I know how he feels about making sure he's there every Sunday. You know, and we just want him to take the proper steps, listen to the trainers, just make sure he's doing all the little things right and just listening to what those guys are telling him.
What have you learned about his tolerance for pain and toughness since you've been here?
Yeah, I mean, that's a non-issue. I mean, if his body parts are working, he's going to do everything he can to be on the field.
Adam, Bobby McCain's become a very valuable guy in the secondary because he can play so many spots. Where have you seen the most growth from him since the time he first got here?
I think it's just experience, really, just knowledge of offenses. You know, when we first started, it started with leverage. You know, he lost early in that first season on some routes, and then he made huge strides throughout the season. And then the longer we've gone, the tighter the coverage has got. And the times that we're kind of thrown outside when we've had injuries in the past, he's gone out there, he's been competitive, he's been tight. You know, he's gotten his hands on some balls as far as some PBUs, and you know, I think he's just to the point now where he's able to play a lot smoother, to where he kind of understands splits and concepts and things like that help him be able to break on throws, kind of know where to position himself.
Offensively, you've been able to turn turnovers into 2 touchdowns, 2 field goals. When you've committed a turnover, you've only allowed just 1 field goal. What does that say about your defense, that it's not letting the momentum swing for the other team in that sense?
You know, I think they came in they started in the spring with the right attitude of it's an opportunity to make something positive happen off of a negative play. And I know that has been something that he's stressed right from the get-go. We kind of took some steps to change how we were going onto the field, what we talked about, and those guys have done a good job of embracing it and then actually going out there and executing it the exact way that they've talked about it. And that's big for us, because I mean that's one of those, you know, kick in the gut when you have a turnover, especially when it's on your own end.
Adam, with running back, obviously there's a numbers game because Perry and Bolden have such great value on special teams. Do you tell Balaj, okay, this is just the way it is, or do you try to incentivize him to say, why don't you do something to try to make us rethink this in terms of, you know, positive motivation?
You know, I talk to him quite a bit, you know, almost every day of practice, just try to give him, you know, a few words here and there to just remind him of, you just keep doing what you're doing, because he's done a great job in practice every day. He's in there, he has a smile on his face, he's ready to go if he's called on, and he wants to play. I mean, you can tell when the way he practices, every day he walks out there and there's a statement with the way that he runs and thuds guys up, and the way he works extremely hard on special teams to just keep trying to show those guys, hey, I'm ready to go when I'm called upon. And it's not an easy thing, especially for a young player, a rookie, to not be active. But I think he's done a great job of handling this, and we keep seeing him get better every day. You know, you're always hoping that everybody stays healthy. It's just the NFL. I mean, you're going to have guys here and there that go down, and you just need everybody to be ready to go.
Do you still see more of a ceiling to get to for Albert Wilson? I'm sure that he knows the playbook at this point, but to become more fluent and just to have it come without thinking for him would be the next step.
I think the more that we do with him, and the longer that he's really in this, and it's only going to get easier for him. I don't know if any of our guys will really ever say, hey, I got it, because I mean, you always want to be learning, you always want to kind of try to figure out the next step. What else can I do? And he's one of those type of guys. He's always looking to contribute in any way, no matter what it is, whether he has the ball or not. And I think that's something that I've really come to appreciate about him is, you know, he is unselfish. He cares about his group doing well, and he's a big part of kind of, you know, making sure that our guys, we're focused on winning. It's not about numbers. It's about how do we do well as a team.
Do you approach the season as rolling out your offense, your scheme in phases, or do you just drop everything at once? You guys are doing what you want to do right now.
We kind of like whole type deal as far as installing the offense. Like, we give them a ton early, and then we scale it back and kind of piecemeal it in, and then we drop a whole bunch on them again in training camp. So, you know, once you get to games, then it becomes, you know, little segments of it, and you're kind of pulling things out of there, and then the guys can fine tune those type of things So, I mean, every week it's a little bit different as far as what we're doing, but most of this stuff they've heard before. It's just they might have to reach back a little further to remember it.
Well, using it in the games is more what I was referring to. Is there stuff that, are you trying to show some things now and hold some things for later that this, in a big picture sense of the entire season, are you doing some things now that's set up for later, or do you just use everything every week?
You just use whatever you can to win that game. You know, you don't want to hold anything back.
The Raiders, I think, are second in sacks allowed. Is it just a matter of getting the ball out fast, or they really got up front?
Yeah, I mean, well, it's both. You know, I mean, Derek's done a great job as far as getting the ball out extremely quick. Those guys have done a good job of getting open really quick. And then you throw that line in front of them. I mean, that's a large group of guys that have done a great job in previous years. I mean, they've never been an easy group to go against. You know, they're hard to get around. I mean, they're big guys that when you attack up the middle, they're not going very far. And when you go on the edge, I mean, usually by the time you get there, the ball's out. So, I mean, I think it's a combination of the wideouts, tight ends, and, you know, quarterback getting the ball out, and then you throw in their running game. That's why when they go play action, you see guys running free because the secondary, they're on their own.
Has the development of Jakeem gone as you expected, or looking back from where you got him at?
I think it's probably gone better than really initially. When we first started and he was in the slot, you know, I think he struggled a little bit. I think when we moved him outside, that helped him a lot because it really helped him focus on, you know, limited things where there's not as many options, and he could use his speed and his quickness to his advantage. And the longer we've gone through this, I just keep seeing constant improvement. You know, it's nice to have that many wide receivers. You're trying to always get these guys on the field. You know you can't get them all on the field, but you just keep trying to find ways to get those guys on the field, get them touches, make sure that that whole group's involved in the game. It can become, you're aware of it, and his development has been one of the main reasons why we're able to really kind of look at it as five guys, because he's not just a specialist. You know, he legitimately, you know, contributes to our offense.
I think the size, we always get back to the size with him, of course, but on the outside, isn't that an extra, I don't want to say handicap, but an extra issue?
I think his quickness overrides any kind of size. If you notice, like, he gets a lot of off coverage because guys they come up to press him, and if they miss, he's by you, and you're not going to catch him because his speed is so great. And that's why when we've thrown deep balls down the field against our defense, he's just wide open because they missed on the line of scrimmage. And we haven't really seen a whole bunch of that with him during the season. Guys really play off on him, and that's why we get some of the underneath throws with him.
Has he improved more at route running precision or catching consistency?
I think both. I don't know if I can tab one over the other. I think his knowledge of the offense is light years from when it was that first year, and then that helps him be able to focus on things of route running and catching the ball. You know, if you're not thinking about other stuff and you're able to focus on catching the ball, that helps you.
I know you're comfortable with Minka playing that nickel spot. He's gotten settled in there, but how prepared is he to maybe move back if Rashad isn't playing?
We've moved him all over the place throughout since he's been here. He's played every position. So the thing about him is he's a quick study. So he's able to take limited reps in multiple spots and really absorb that. You know, he's always ready to go at whatever we ask him to do. He's built a little different.
Adam, to the untrained eye, it appears Raekwon McMillan has been thinking too much a little bit, maybe. I'm wondering what you see from him. Are you seeing the aggressiveness? Or are you seing him swarm to the ball like you like?
I think as from preseason to the first game to the second game, I just see strides every week to where he's more comfortable. I thought last game was better than the first one, and that's what we want. We just want constant improvement. I think he is getting comfortable, you know, really working with Kiko and Bake and those guys really developing a good chemistry there. And, you know, sometimes you forget, you know, he hadn't really played an NFL game until we got going in the preseason. And,
I think he's a quick study. I mean, he puts a lot of work into this, and he does well in practice. We just keep working on translating that to the game and trust what he sees and just react and play like we know he can.
Does it make the calls you have the headset?
It's been both those guys at some point and since the preseason, yeah.
Adam, can you talk about the importance of this team playing with an early lead, and does that change your play calling at all?
Probably makes it more aggressive.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think it's great for our defense because if we ever get a team into a situation where they have to throw it, letting those guys pass rush as much as possible for as long as possible, that's really ideal for us. Those guys they're disruptive, and if we can put more pressure on the quarterback, then that's where turnovers come in handy. Shorter fields, score more points.
Where did Parker leave off when he was hurt? How did you feel he was playing through the summer?
Mentally, I thought he was good as far as all the stuff that we were doing. I know he didn't feel like training camp was going as smooth as he wanted it to be. I think he was hoping he'd make more plays, in practice and some of the 50-50 balls, but a lot of the other things were really good with what we were working on. I feel like he's in a good place right now. I think just really taking a step back and then getting healthy and staying engaged and everything, it's really helped him. And I loved how his attitude's been since he's really been back practicing with us, and his energy level, and his legs look great as far as running, and he's had a good 4 days when he's practiced.
Was he physically good in August? You said mentally he was good.
Yeah. I mean, he was. I just.
Howard so much?
Sure. It might have been. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say that's what anything was. I just think he's so used to coming down with a lot of those balls, and it might have been a little bit of Xavier just competing that much tighter than maybe what he's used to.
But he was where you wanted him.
Yeah. Okay.
Is it clear in your mind if he's going to play Sunday?
I don't know, Barry. We'll find out.
With Devontae, is that a missing element, that big, rangy body? Because you have a bunch of smaller.
I think it's always nice to have as many different body types as possible, different skill sets. Just makes it hard in the defense. Just the wider the variety, the better it is for us.
I saw a stat that Frank Gore, it's just 2 weeks, but it's still interesting. #1 in the NFL in least time spent behind the line of scrimmage. So obviously, there's something to that, first in the NFL. So what does that stat tell you? And even though he and Kenyon obviously have different body types and strengths and running styles, are you hoping that there's any part of on-field that Kenyon sees Frank do that helps his game?
I think they both really learn from each other. There's things that I'm sure that Frank watches when what Kenyon does, and he might drop that into his game, and vice versa. I mean, that's really what you want when you got two guys that really have to play off each other during a game. You want those guys to constantly be communicating and talking, and what did you see, and how did you look at this? And Frank does have he has a knack. I mean, he has forever of avoiding the negative plays. I mean, you really have to have a just flat out like bum rush for him to get a negative yardage. So, he just has that little bit of a wiggle there at the end, and then he's powerful enough to push the line of scrimmage forward.
One thing with running backs on the topic, it's clear every week they do something to show their pass catching skills. We saw Frank with a 3rd and 19 last week. Is that something that's vital for you with your backs? Could you ever envision having a back here who's not a good receiver out of the backfield, or is that essential for what you want from that position?
I mean, I like guys that can do everything, where you can run the ball, you can catch the ball, you can protect. I mean, when you have somebody that's, hey, only at this point of the game, 1st and 2nd down, or short yardage, or 3rd down, it can limit you. I like guys being able to kind of get in a rhythm and stay in a whole series instead of coming in and out. So, I think the group we have right now, I like that group. I like all those guys. I mean, we can put any one of those guys in the game. We'd feel really good about it. So, I think as deep as we are, hopefully we're not bringing anybody in for a while.
Last question.
All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed the interviews. I hope you enjoyed the show. And as always, if you did, please hit the subscribe button, share it with your friends, post on Facebook, whatever, hit the like button, and definitely leave me some comments, questions, concerns, anything you'd like to see or hear in the videos. stuff like that. So definitely let me know. And of course, the most important thing is subscribe. So with that said, I'll see you guys soon, and fins up.